Hello, Bakersfield. I heard there's a lot of us outside too, which is really exciting. It's much bigger than just here. My name is Nicole Moore. I'm a part-time driver and the president of Rideshare Drivers United. We are 20,000 drivers fighting for dignity and fairness as Lyft and Uber drivers here in California. We are so proud to be part of this tour against oligarchy and against corporate greed. Let me give you just a window into our world. As drivers, we work in the belly of the beast, at the crossroads of corporate greed and algorithmic management, which is robots managing you. We are the future of work, and we can tell you as it is now, it is not freedom, it's a trap. When I was a kid, I watched the Jetsons. Do you remember that? George Jetson, at the end of the day, would put his feet up because the robots were doing the work. It was actually making his life easier. But that's not what's happening. Instead of freeing us, algorithms and AI are making us work harder, longer, and for less money. We may not have a human boss breathing down our neck because our boss is the phone on our dashboard. The algorithm decides when we work, where we work, and what we're worth. And what does it decide? It decides that we deserve less, not a living wage, not even a consistent pay. For those of us that work full-time, we find ourselves working 6 to 7 days a week. And at the end of the day, sometimes you have to choose between filling your gas tank so you can work the next day or buying a sandwich because you haven't eaten all day. It's not a job. It's not even survival. We call it exploitation. They call it innovation. And when we stood up and demanded our basic labor rights under California law, minimum wage, reimbursement for our expenses, our time, the companies spent $220 million to trick voters into passing Prop 22. The companies bought themselves their own law, a law that legalizes poverty wages, that takes away all of our basic rights as workers. But make no mistake, this isn't just about drivers. This is a new playbook. They're coming for nurses, for teachers, for everyone, because everyone can be managed and deployed by an app. And if so, maybe they can get rid of your rights too. This is not an easy time for most of us. There's so much uncertainty, so much harm being done right now, real danger for many of us. As drivers, we're a majority people of color and immigrant workforce, so the crosshairs of so much of the madness in this moment bears down on all of us. And while this is happening, the billionaires are billionizing with our money. But our power is in organizing all of us wherever we are, so we ask you to join us. Fight with us against oligarchy, against corporate greed, against tech oligarchy. It's not all innovation. We need full regulation of new technologies that protect people from job loss and from income loss. We need to ensure workers, no matter their boss, human or machine, are covered by full labor rights. And guess what? We need to raise up labor rights too. Many of us took these jobs in app work because of the flexibility. All workers in this country need flexibility, and that needs to be guaranteed. So I'm very, very proud and humbled to be part of the stage today. I want to invite people to join Rideshare Drivers United if you are a driver, and to support us otherwise if you're not, because we have some big fights this year where we could actually be holding these companies accountable. We're drivers-united.org. Let's fight, let's win together. Shout out to my members, brothers, back in the back. But I want to turn over the microphone now to people who are giants in something we're pretty much newcomers to, some of the original organizers. It's my immense pleasure to introduce UFW President Teresa Romero and Carolina, one of the wonderful rank and file UFW leaders from right here in Kern County.
¡Se puede! ¡Se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! Good afternoon, Bakersfield. It is an honor to be here today, standing together in solidarity, fighting for all workers. Again, my name is Teresa Romero, and I am the president of the United Farm Workers of America. The nation's oldest and largest labor for agricultural workers, founded by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, who I want. Thank you, Dolores, thank you. A woman who has dedicated her life to serve others, who has sacrificed so much for us to be here today. You know, the UFW was founded over 60 years ago, just 30 miles up Highway 1999. The union was born right here in Central Valley, right here in Kern County. At that time, Mexican and Filipino farm workers decided that instead of crossing each other's picket lines, they would unite and strike together. Our union was born in that moment of solidarity. Divided, these workers would have gotten nowhere, but united, we won. Whether workers are in the fields or in factories or warehouses, one thing the boss always tries to do is to divide us by race, by language, by where we come from. But we, in the United Farm Workers, know one simple fact, that when you make it easier to exploit any worker, that makes it easier to exploit every worker. Right now, that is what the Trump administration is doing to our communities. Yes, boo, yes, yes. Donald Trump's attacks on immigrants are an attack of the entire working class. We have seen that here in Kern County. A few months ago, Border Patrol came to Bakersfield and conducted one of the largest and most chaotic raids we have seen in the Central Valley in decades. Boo! Hundreds of our community members were stopped, interrogated, detained, and even deported. Illegally detained. Thank you very much. They were not looking for criminals. They were stopping people who looked like farm workers. Some of them were our union members, our compañeros. They had no criminal records. They left behind wives and children who have now have to figure out a way to fend for themselves. This is where deportation rates leave behind violence and separation, entire communities terrorized. But the Farm Workers Union is fighting back. We're suing Border Patrol. We are suing the Trump administration over their unconstitutional show me your papers registry. And we're going to fight like hell if they come for farm workers, wages, and worker protections. Let's be clear about one thing. Donald Trump and his billionaire friends, they want us to be afraid. Because the bosses know that when workers are afraid of federal agents, they're also less likely to report wage theft or unsafe working conditions or to organize. That is the dirty secret of why so many rich ranchers and growers support Donald Trump. They know their workers are undocumented, and they want to make sure that those workers are so afraid that they will not stand up. Shame. But I have bad news for them. No matter how much how much terror they sow, at harvest time, you will find workers standing up for themselves and their co-workers. And I want to recognize the farm workers that are here today. These are the men and women that put food on our tables every single day. Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. Now I want to introduce to you one of those workers, someone who stood for herself and taught other workers how to stand up too. She's a hero, a fighter, a mother, a farm worker. In 2016, she led over 600 of her fellow workers on a 3-day strike to win their first ever UFW contract. Since then, they have had better wages, better benefits, and most of all, respect on the job. She will make some remarks in Spanish, and at the end, I will give you a brief description of what she said. But please welcome Carolina, a proud farm worker, leader, and mother, and a United Farm Workers member.
Hola, muchas gracias. De antemano les ofrezco una disculpa porque de mi trabajo me vine para acá.
I have to translate this. She says she's apologizing for being dressed like this because she just came from work.
Mi nombre es Carolina, campesina desde el 2002. Llevo más de 2 décadas trabajando en los campos del condado de Kern. Yo vivo en Deleno, cerca de donde se inició la Unión de Campesinos. De parte de la Unión de Campesinos les doy las gracias, les doy la bienvenida a Bakersfield. Estas son mis manos con las que les han llegado uvas, blueberry, pistachos, por más de 20 años. Estoy muy orgullosa y contenta de tener mi contrato de unión. Tuvimos que pelearlo, tuvimos que entrar en huelga. Muchos tenían miedo, muchos no querían hacer enojar al ranchero, porque todos tenemos familia y todos tenemos biles que pagar. Pero más fuerte fue
Sí se puede, Carolina, sí se puede.
Pero más fuerte que nuestro miedo era nuestra esperanza, nuestra fe en una vida mejor. Durante 3 días estuvimos en huelga. Al final el ranchero firmó un contrato con nosotros. Desde que yo me metí a la unión, mi pensamiento cambió. Antes yo trabajaba como burro. Yo trabajaba de sol a sol. Pero siendo miembro de la Unión de Campesinos, me di cuenta que no somos burros. Somos humanos. Y valemos mucho más de cómo nos tratan como herramientas. Ahora vivimos mucho mejor. Antes trabajaba de lunes a domingo, ahora trabajo de lunes a viernes. Pero gano más. Cuando no tienes un contrato de unión, no tienes un trabajo seguro. trabajas una temporada bien, pero no sabes si a la siguiente te van a llamar. Aunque le esté rogando a los mayordomos, a los supervisores, con mi contrato de unión yo no tengo que llamarles, ellos me llaman a mí. Antes no tenía tiempo para mi familia. Es bien importante la familia. Yo tengo 7 hijos. Yo tengo 7 hijos de los cuales yo estoy muy orgullosa porque trabajo y los atiendo. Mi hija mayor está en la universidad en Long Beach. Ella está estudiando para ser maestra. Como madre me hace sentir bien, pero bien orgullosa. En el campo lo único que escuchas es que las universidades son para los ricos, para los hijos de los rancheros, pero nunca vamos a mirar a nuestros hijos estudiando allá. Pero ella se fue a perseguir su sueño y lo está logrando. Ahorita mi hijo se va a graduar de la high school. Él se va a unir a la Guardia Nacional. Me hace sentir bien orgullosa. Me hace sentir bien orgullosa que voy a tener un hijo defendiendo a Estados Unidos, porque esta es nuestra casa. Deleno es nuestra casa. América es nuestro país, aunque no lo quieran reconocer. Así que en este mensaje a todos los trabajadores, ese mensaje es que sí se puede. Sí se puede luchar, sí se puede ganar una unión, un mejor sueldo, una mejor vida, un mejor mundo. No tengan miedo a los patrones, a los ricos, a los políticos. Sí nos pueden lastimar mucho, nos han lastimado mucho, pero nunca va a mejorar nada si nosotros no nos hacemos responsables de organizarnos. Y de luchar por algo mejor. Yo tengo mucha fe en que este país va a ser un país bueno para la gente trabajadora. Yo tengo fe en que un día muy pronto, todos en este país se van a dar cuenta de que las familias como la mía han estado trabajando por años, alimentando a este país. Todos ustedes nos van a ayudar. Tomen en cuenta y los invito a reflexionar un poco en el sufrimiento de una madre dejando a su pequeño para ir a trabajar. El miedo de salir al trabajo y no saber si vas a regresar a casa. Les digo a los políticos, pongan un alto a las redadas, apoyen a sus trabajadores, no corten programas como el medical que las familias necesitan. Imagínate lo que es vivir, trabajar día a día para poder sobrevivir. Estas son mis manos viejas, acabadas, dañadas por tanto trabajar. Y lamentablemente, ya enfermas. Pero con estas manos le damos de comer a América. Y con estas mismas manos yo lucho por un sueño americano mejor. Sí se puede, compañeros.
I know I'm not going to make her justice, but let me just briefly translate what she said. She said she has been a farm worker since 2002. Her hands have harvested grapes, blueberries, and pistachios. She is a mother of 7 with her oldest daughter studying to be a teacher now in Long Beach. Her next oldest son is about to join the National Guard, and he is here right here with us. They are pursuing their American dream. She's proud to be and happy to have a union contract, but they had to fight for it. They were on strike for 3 days. At first, many were afraid, but their faith that for a better future was possible was even stronger than their fear. Her message to all of us is our slogan, Sí se puede. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we can win. Her message is not to be afraid of the bosses or the rich or the politicians. She has faith that one day this country will be a good country for working people. She says these are her hands. They are worn and tired from so much hard work. But these are the hands that feed America. From the cities to the fields, we will build a country that works for working people, where the workers who feed us all every day can afford to put food on their own family's tables, where everyone can get to see a doctor when they need one, and where no family has to live in fear or being separated. Gracias, en sí se puede.
Hello, Bakersfield. How are we doing tonight? Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Bakersfield. It's so amazing to be with you all today, and I'm just thrilled. Te amo también, te amo, los amo. Si se puede. Do we have any Latinos here in the house today? You know, I think before we get started today, I want to acknowledge we have someone very, very, very special here today. Señora Dolores Huertas in the building. ¿A dónde está? ¿A dónde está? Gracias. You know, Dolores, obviously kind of in our culture, it's so important for us to revere everyone who has laid the foundations for us. And Dolores turned 95 just recently. Does anyone know how to sing happy birthday in Spanish? We'll do that maybe at the end. But thank you all so much again. And it's just such a thrill to be here today in Bakersfield. And I want to thank each and every one of you for making the effort to be here today. I know it's not easy. You all took the time out of your days. You made the time. You carpooled. You figured it out. All for us to be here in community today. And that is the true power of this moment. Because it's not just about me or about Bernie. It's about you all coming together in this space as we prepare for our future. So thank you. My name is Alexandria. Some of you may know me as AOC. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for welcoming me here to Bakersfield. And we are all, thank you, and we are all here together today because we share in the frustration and heartache that comes from watching those in power actively tear down or refuse to fight for everyday working Americans like us. And we are also here together because an extreme concentration of power, greed, and corruption is taking over this country like never before. And there's a word for it. It is oligarchy in America. And we must acknowledge the terrifying moment that we are in right now. Because when there's so much that's overwhelming, and it's easy to feel hopeless or powerless in a moment, sometimes feels like the only thing that some folks want to do naturally is to turn away, to look away. But we have to be real about what is happening. And that what we are hearing and seeing with our own eyes is, in fact, happening. We are watching as our neighbors, students, and friends are being fired, targeted, and disappeared. It is real. Even out here in Bakersfield, we've had a UFW organizer that was taken up. People we love are being targeted and harassed for being LGBTQ. Our coworkers, U.S. citizens and immigrants alike, are being disappeared off the street by men in vans with no uniform. Educators, our teachers, are being fired for teaching American history accurately. And activists are being detained with no charge or evidence for using their First Amendment rights, especially if those First Amendment rights are being used to speak up for Palestinians and to end the war in Gaza. We've seen how people in power use the most marginalized people in the world to test how they can marginalize the rest of us, to deploy the rest of us, to disappear the rest of us. And we can't stand for it anymore. In fact, the Trump administration themselves admits that it has jailed a young husband and father, Mahmoud Khalil, without any evidence or charge of a crime. They admit that they have thrown him in a cell thousands of miles away from his family because he attended a protest. And they admit that they are detaining him for the content of his speech and nothing more. Donald Trump's detention of Mahmoud Khalil for his speech is anti-American. And we demand his release, along with the release of Rumeisa Ozturk, who he is also jailing for writing an op-ed in her school paper. This is how they test the waters, Bakersfield. By first going after activists such as these so that they can jail them for their speech, and then they will jail the rest of us for speaking up for immigrants, for speaking up for women's rights, for speaking up against this administration in any way, shape, or form. We demand their release because we do have power in this moment. All of us do. Everyday people do. And it will never, never just be institutions and officials alone that uphold our democracy. It will always be the people, the masses, who refuse to comply with authoritarian regimes, who are the last and strongest defense of our country and our freedoms. You, Bakersfield. We know that a better world is possible. And we are willing to do something about it. But to get there, we have to be honest about how we got to where we are right now. Because this moment did not come out of nowhere. It has been a long time coming. The destruction of our rights and democracy is directly tied to the growing and extreme wealth inequality that has been building in America for years. And it is not a coincidence that billionaires like Elon Musk have dumped billions into this election to support Trump. And he sure as hell isn't doing it out of charity. For years, we have known that our political system has slowly but surely become dominated by big money and billionaires. Time after time, we've seen how our government and laws have been more responsive to lobbyists and corporations than to the will of everyday people and voters. And we also know that the agenda of dark money to keep wages low and loot our public goods to give to the rich is deeply unpopular with the people across party and background. Just look at what Republicans have been quietly doing in Congress, including your congressman out here, Representative Valadao. They've been voting to advance cuts on hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid and veterans benefits so that they can take that money and give it to billionaires in the form of tax cuts and sweetheart government contracts to their companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin. And again, Bakersfield, you know who voted for that? Congressman David Valadao. He knows that that's not what you want. He knows it is deeply unpopular, and he knows that it hurts the people of Bakersfield. But he is not there to serve the working families of this community. He is there to serve himself and the billionaires who support him and the Republican Party. But he also knows that the only chance that they have to get away with such a deeply unpopular agenda is to stoke deep divisions along race, identity, and culture to keep us fighting and distracted. And this has been the big money playbook, not just now, but for decades. And I personally find it especially heinous that in a community like Bakersfield, where we have hardworking immigrant families who have been feeding this country from farm to table, to be represented by a man who enables such hate. Merecemos mejor. And again, that this big money playbook is not just something that's happening right now. It's been happening for decades. And that is why Donald Trump is not an aberration. He is the logical, inevitable conclusion of an American political system dominated by corporate and dark money. And if we are to defeat him, we must defeat the system that created it. Money in politics is the hand of oligarchy. And America, we are at a crossroads. We can either have extreme wealth inequality with the toxic division and corruption that it requires to continue and survive, or we can have a fair economy for all working people, along with the democracy and freedoms that uphold it. Oligarchy or democracy. But we cannot have both. I grew up in a working class family. My mom cleaned houses, and my dad worked on a small business. And my parents, like many, many families here in Bakersfield, worked themselves to the bone so that my brother and I could have a shot. The American dream. And for a moment there, it looked like we may have been able to make it. We had a home, bills that were getting a little less stressful to pay, and I was doing well in public school. And what may have looked like a modest life to others was a dream come true for us. But suddenly, when I was a teenager, my dad was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. They actually thought it might have been job-related. He spent a lot of time on construction sites. And after a long fight, we lost him. My dad actually passed away in September of 2008, just as the American economy crashed in the Great Recession and millions of jobs across the country vanished. And it felt like the little world of our family fell apart, just as the larger world was falling apart too. And overnight, my mom was left alone to figure out how to provide and put 2 kids through school, how to keep our house, pay off medical bills, all on a house cleaner salary. And that, Bakersfield, is how I became a waitress. Because it was the millions of innocent working families across this country who paid the price for that recklessness, while the billionaires and thieves who defrauded our financial system got off richer than ever before. And not a single one of them went to jail, as millions of Americans had their houses were put out on the street from being pushed out on their houses. And that right there is the story that Republicans mock. Not mine, but all of ours, when they say that a waitress or a working person is unqualified to serve in Congress. But the fact is, many of us are far more qualified to know what real life is like than any of them ever will. Bakersfield, I tell you this story not because it is special, but precisely because of how common and normal it is. While the details may differ, so many of us know what it feels like for life to be one bad day, one piece of bad news, one setback away from feeling like it's all gonna fall apart. And we're here to say, Bakersfield, I'm here to say that we don't have to live like this anymore. We can make a new world, a better country, where we fight for the dignity of all people. And Bakersfield, that dignity looks like living wages. It looks like stable housing. It looks like guaranteed health care. And it looks like respect for all our differences. Oligarchy or democracy. And Bakersfield, pardon? Democracy, that's right. Oligarchy or democracy. Bakersfield, we are here today because we choose democracy. We choose freedom. Sorry. Got y'all riled up. But we choose democracy. We choose freedom. And that means we must choose to out-organize the oligarchy. And we must do away with the power of big money. And that, Bakersfield, is why, even as a waitress with a long shot campaign, I decided I would never take money from lobbyists and corporations, and it's why I never will. When I first got to Congress, I was genuinely shocked by how the place worked, even having run against dark money in the first place. And the everyday influence of corruption and dark money was truly astonishing. Because we have somehow conditioned ourselves in Congress to believe that it's normal for elected representatives who swear an oath to the people to day trade individual stock and make millions with the sensitive information that we are entrusted with for the purpose of governing. I ask you, Bakersfield, how can anyone possibly make an objective vote on health care, energy, or war when their own money is tied up in pharmaceutical, oil, or defense company stocks? You can't. And we saw this play out this week with Trump's corrupt and disastrous tariff scheme. And I hope that we see now that this whole tariff shuffle didn't have anything to do with manufacturing like they claimed. It was all about manipulating the markets so he could quietly enrich his friends who bought the dip before reversing it all in the morning. Bakersfield, this is a matter of fact. Donald Trump is a criminal. He was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, found liable for sexual abuse. And if he wants to find the rapists and criminals in this country, he should look in the mirror. And to be clear, I don't care, and back to the stocks part. I don't care what party you are, Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter what position you have. Members of Congress holding and trading individual stock is wrong. It is corrosive, it is destructive, and it must be banned. I'll give another example of some of the corruption, the casual influence that we see in Congress. Just earlier this year, I was named to the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House. And this is one of the most powerful committees in all of Congress. It oversees 2/3 of the American economy: energy, manufacturing, trade, and healthcare. And one of the reasons why I sought to be on Energy and Commerce is because I believe in Medicare for all. And I believe that healthcare is a right that should be afforded to every American. And I'm committed to the long haul of making that happen. And for years, lobbyists fought to keep me off this committee because they don't like what they don't control. And an interesting thing happened on the day that it was announced that I was named to the committee. The phones in my office, in our email inboxes, they were ringing off the hook and getting flooded by every corporate lobbyist under the sun. All of a sudden, they wanted to be best friends. But you know what, Bakersfield? Because of you all, because of your support, because you all show up, because you allow me to not take a dime in corporate money, you free me to say no. And we can free others to say no too. But not everyone right now is so lucky. I've seen firsthand how these groups bully and pressure members of Congress, threatening to either take their money away or to spend it against them if they don't do what they want. And what they want is for our lives to be as expensive as possible on the lowest possible wage. And it trickles down to how life feels for all of us as working people. I want us all to understand that what we are experiencing today, this constant pressure of water rising up to our throats, of the impossibility to afford anything easily, the fear of speaking up or being who we are in public, the bitter divisions that we experience driven more by online algorithms than the truth, the crumbling of our rights and protections, understand that this is what it feels like to be governed by billionaires. Not someday, but right now. Because of course, it is a system that depends on division to enable this inequality that will favor a president who is the best at dividing us and most skilled at corruption. And it will also reward the Republicans in Congress who support that agenda, no matter what crimes are committed, like the ones we see being committed out of the White House right now. There is a reason why Congressman Valadeo hasn't said a damn thing. There's a reason while we are getting snatched up off the street, while our families are being broken up, while LGBT people are being targeted, while teachers are being disrespected, that he is not saying a damn thing for you all right now. It's because big money is how we got Donald Trump and his silence. And let's be clear about Trump. His whole presidency began with launching tools for bribery, meme coins, and cryptocurrencies to fleece normal people and move money in the dark. Extortion settlements from media companies and law firms who gladly pay the price. In fact, he removed duly elected officials from the chamber of the inauguration to make room for who he wants to say is really in charge, which is the billionaires who were standing behind them. And they have one central economic mission: to make themselves richer at the expense of the United States of America. So it does not surprise us that their first economic mission has been to target Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, firing our federal workers, and abandoning our veterans, for billions of dollars in budget cuts so that they can hand that money off to those same billionaires. But Bakersfield, we are in one of the beating heart communities in this country that can unlock change for the rest of us. Because in order for us to break the dam, we just need 3 Republican members to say no. Out of hundreds, 3. And David Valadao is one of the ones who could still do the right thing. And that means it is up to us to organize that pressure, because you all are the true heroes of this story. Because if you all are able to organize, apply pressure, support the Democratic challenger or the challenger for this seat, then we can apply enough pressure to peel off one of those 3 no's, and it can be the people of Bakersfield who save Medicaid for the entire country. That's why we are here today, because we believe that we can win. And Bakersfield, I know that it can look impossible at times for these Republicans to look like they can be defeated. But it's not true. It's simply not true. And from the waitress who is now speaking to you today, I can tell you impossible is nothing. Miracles start with mustard seeds. And that is what each and every one of you here represent today. Small miracles of faith in ourselves, in each other, and in the refusal to give up. So we are here for the long haul, for the school boards and the community associations, for small business groups and town councils, for public art and gestures of inclusion, and for seats in Congress too. And we will build up from there. So you all know what that means. We must start working right now to give David Valadao the boot and replace him with a brawling Democrat who will stand up for the working people of this community. Now, beyond elections, our task is to build community. Block associations, volunteer groups, church and faith organizations, PTAs, advocacy groups, because community is the most powerful building block we have to defeat authoritarianism and root out corruption. Bakersfield, this is the path to guaranteeing health care to every American, to establishing a living minimum wage, to take on skyrocketing rents and mortgages, to tackle the climate crisis and establish a country where the American dream is actually possible for all of us. So I'll end where I began. We might all come from different places, but we share a lot of the same experiences. And we come from a heritage of organizing too. That's what Dolores here represents today. That impossible is nothing. That they say people with no power can never have power. But when we organize, we can change this country. We can open those paths. Sí se puede. So to all of you who came here today unsure of whether this is where you belong, I want to say that you do. No matter if you have all the right words to say, no matter your race, religion, gender identity, or status, no matter if you disagree with me on some things, if you are willing to fight for someone you don't know, you are welcome here. If you are willing to fight for working people regardless of who they are, how they identify, or where they come from, you are welcome here. Because here everyone is valued. But we have to stand together. We cannot be tempted to turn in our neighbors or be fooled into thinking that we are really that much different than a trans kid who just wants to be accepted at school. We can't trick ourselves and delude ourselves into thinking that we're that much different than the dreamer striving for a better future for themselves and their family. Because hate is a trap that sinks us all. And it is standing together without exception to reject division that is the only way that we can win. So I hope that you see that this movement is not about partisan labels or purity tests, but it is about class solidarity. It's about the thousands of you who came out today to stand here together and say our lives deserve dignity and our work deserves respect, no matter who we are or where we come from, because we are here to make a sacred promise to one another. Our goal today is to commit to building the kind of country that we all deserve. And we will make that promise, to take care of one another on our worst days and to share in the successes of our best. Thank you, Bakersfield, for welcoming me here today. And now it is my honor to introduce someone who has spent his life bringing us together, and that is Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Bakersfield. And let me thank Maya Falik, Nicole Moore, Teresa Romero, and Carolina for participating in this event. And mostly let me thank Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And let me tell you how Alexandria and I ended up here in Bakersfield this afternoon. It's been a long trip. And it started a very, very long time ago, when I was a kid growing up in a rent-controlled apartment. My dad worked very hard, never was unemployed, but he never made a lot of money. And because he never made a lot of money, there was always stress in my house. How are we going to pay the bills? We lived back then paycheck to paycheck, like many of you are living today. And growing up in that household is something that I have never forgotten. And it's what has motivated me over the years. And I know Alexandria, who grew up in a similar household, feels the same. That we want an economy that works for all of our people, not just a few. And here is the truth that you don't see much about on corporate television, and you don't hear it all in the halls of Congress. And that is that in the wealthiest nation on earth, you have one man, one person, Mr. Musk, owning more wealth than the bottom half of American households. Today in America, the richest country in the history of the world, 60% of our people, I expect many people here today, are living paycheck to paycheck. Am I right? Let's talk about what that means. A nation, a great nation, is supposed to love its children, is supposed to love and respect its most vulnerable people. And yet we have, in America today, the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. We have kids who are going to school hungry. We have kids who live in cars with their working parents. We have in America today a situation where mom and dad both go to work. Who's going to take care of the kids? Well, our child care system today is wildly expensive. Is it not? In my state of Vermont, it costs $20,000, $25,000 for one kid in child care. If you're making $40,000 or $50,000 a year, how can you afford child care? You can't. We have, in terms of our kids, the kids who want to get a higher education. Millions of wonderful kids, bright kids, cannot afford to go to college at a time when we desperately need a well-educated workforce. And for those kids who do go to college from working class homes, many of them end up $50,000 or $100,000 in debt. But it's not just the kids. I want you to hear what we do for the elderly. Again, I would not be telling you this if we lived in a poor country. This is not a poor country. The richest country in the history of the world, 22% of our senior citizens are living on $15,000 a year or less. I don't know how anybody can possibly live on $15,000 a year or less. Half of seniors are trying to make it on $30,000 a year or less. And all over this country, it's not just the children, it's not just the elderly. You got millions and millions of people are working for starvation wages. People cannot afford housing. People cannot afford the prescription drugs they need. People want to buy good food for their kids. They go into a grocery store, price of the food is off the charts. Half of the people in America, if you can believe this, half of the people in America are actually in debt right now. Anybody here have credit card debt? People have no money, they go into debt. And what is the interest rate you're paying on credit cards? 20, 25%? 30%? 40%, my God. We have, again, in the richest country on earth, so many of our people are struggling while the people on top have never, ever had it so good. Today in America, it's not just that one guy, can you imagine, one person owning more wealth than the bottom half of American households? That is insane. And let me tell you something about these oligarchs. You all know what oligarchs are? Oligarchs are people who have a serious addiction problem. All right. We all know people who are dealing with drugs, right? We know people who are dealing with alcohol, right? People who smoke too much, right? You know what the addiction is of the oligarchs? Greed. It's unbelievable. You would think that if you had $10 billion, it might be enough, right? You might just have enough to get by. You know? But these guys want more and more. And what is really ugly is in order to go from 10 to 20 billion or 50 billion to 100 billion, they are prepared to step on anybody who gets in their way. So right now, as Alexandria mentioned, right now, in the Congress, there is work, legislation being prepared, which, if you can believe it, will cut Medicaid by $880 billion. Cut nutrition programs for hungry kids who go to school. Cut programs for affordable housing. Now you have a congressman here, his name is Representative Baladero. So I don't know if he's watching the live stream or not. But if he is, let me just say this to him. I come from the state of Vermont, and I'm here in Bakersfield. Alexandria comes from New York, and she is here in Bakersfield. Now, Mr. Congressman, you live in this district. Why don't you show up at a town meeting like this? And when you show up, I think people are going to have a very simple question for you. And that is, are you going to vote for tax breaks for billionaires and cut Medicaid, nutrition, and housing? So, Mr. Congressman, that's the question on people's mind. Have the guts, show up, and answer that question. But it is not just Medicaid that they want to cut right now. If you can believe it, Mr. Musk is running all over Washington, D.C. in order to cut Social Security, to cut veterans programs. Now, you know, I bet we have many veterans who are here right now. And veterans have put their lives on the line to defend this country. And veterans are entitled to good quality health care. And we don't need the richest guy on earth to be cutting 83,000 positions from the Veterans Administration. We don't need massive cuts to the Social Security Administration so that elderly people and disabled people will not be able to get the benefits they paid into. So some of you are wondering, how does it happen that you got an administration who's acting on behalf of a handful of billionaires against the needs of the vast majority of the American people? And the answer is very simple. We have a corrupt campaign finance system. So here's a piece of information I want to give to any of you who are interested. If you would like to become the most powerful person in Washington like Mr. Musk, all you have to do, it's not complicated, just contribute $270 million to Trump's campaign. We have a corrupt campaign finance system which allows billionaires through their super PACs to spend as much money as they want to elect their right-wing candidates and defeat candidates who stand up for the working class. And when we talk about where we want to go as a nation, at the top of my list is the end, this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And move to public funding of elections. Democracy is about one person, one vote. It is not about billionaires buying elections. But brothers and sisters, it is not just in a rigged economy that we have to worry about today. There is another issue I know that is on people's minds, and that is the rapid movement of the Trump administration toward an authoritarian form of society. You know, the people who wrote our Constitution back in the 1790s were nobody's dummies. They were smart guys. They had just fought a revolutionary war against the most powerful person on earth, the King of England. And this guy was an autocrat. He had all the power. So these guys are writing a new constitution for a new country, and they say, you know what? We want a separation of powers. We don't want one person to have all the power. So they created an executive branch, the president, a legislative branch, House and Senate, and a judicial branch, our federal courts. And the point about that separation of power was each party, each group would keep a check on the others. And what we are seeing right now is day after day, Trump is trying to dismantle that separation of powers and bring more power unto himself. Well, Mr. Trump, we overthrew the King of England in 1770. We are not going to allow you to become the new king here. You know, in World War II, during World War II, some 400,000 young Americans, men and women, died to defeat fascism and authoritarianism. And I will be damned if we're going to dishonor those men and women who fought and died for democracy by allowing Trump to become a dictator. Our job is to rally the American people and to defeat Trumpism. But we have got to do even more than that. From the bottom of my heart, I believe that we can create a government and an economy that works for all of us, not just Mr. Musk and his billionaire friends. In America, no worker should be working for starvation wages. Let us raise the minimum wage to a living wage. In the United States today, we are the only major country not to guarantee health care to all people as a right. We spend twice as much per person on health care as the people of any other nation, and yet 83 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, and we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. It is my deepest held view that health care is a human right, not a privilege. The function of health care is not to make billions in profits for the drug companies or the insurance companies. It's to provide quality care for every man, woman, and child in America. You know, Mr. Trump is big into deporting people. Well, maybe he might want to deport the crooks in the pharmaceutical industry and in the insurance industry. Right now in America, we have from coast to coast a major housing crisis. 800,000 Americans are homeless. 20 million Americans are spending 50% or more of their limited incomes on housing. Well, maybe instead of spending $1 trillion a year on the military, how about building 5 million units of low-income and affordable housing? How about telling these corporate interests they cannot own more and more affordable housing and raise rents that people cannot afford? We are never going to have the kind of country we want unless we have the best educated workforce in the world. And that means I want all of our young people, low income, working class, whatever they may be, to have the opportunity to get the education they need to succeed in life. And the training they need. We need to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. We need construction workers who have the training to help us do the necessary work. We need more doctors. We need more nurses. We need more dentists. We need more carpenters. We need more electricians. Let's train our workers. And young people who get the education should not have to go $100,000 in debt. Let us make public colleges and universities tuition free. You know, and then sometimes my critics say, well, Bernie, those are great ideas. How are you going to pay for them? I will tell you how we're going to pay for them. We're not going to give the billionaires more tax breaks. We're going to demand they start paying their fair share of taxes. Look, the bottom line is it's not complicated. Politics is not complicated. The bottom line is, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the billionaire class, or are you on the side of the working class of this country? We know which side we are on. Now, these are tough times for our country, but it's not the first time that we have lived in a difficult moment. I want to read something to you. I want to read something to you, if I might. In 1857, Frederick Douglass, you all know who Frederick Douglass was? He was a great abolitionist, led the effort to end the nightmare of slavery in America. This is what he said. I want you to listen carefully, please. This is what he said. Power, the people on top, concedes nothing without a demand. Got that? Unless people demand something, power is not going to give up. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. In other words, what Douglass said way back then is relevant today. If we sit back and allow the billionaire class and the oligarchs to do with us what they want, they will succeed. Our job now is to stand up and tell them enough is enough. This country belongs to all of us, not just Mr. Musk and his fellow billionaires. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but this I do understand. 99% is a hell of a bigger number than 1%. So if we stand together and not allow Trump to demagogue us, to divide us up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or what our language is or our sexual orientation, that's how they succeed. They divide us up and up and up. When we stand together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. Brothers and sisters, thank you very much.